Today we are taking you on a journey to a country that still feels like it's living 40 years in the past. A country that has stood firm against one of the most powerful nations on earth, the United States. Yes, we're talking about Cuba, a land filled with mystery, resilience, and old-world charm. Cuba is often described as frozen in time, yet millions of people visit it every year to experience its unique beauty, history, and revolutionary spirit. In this documentary, we'll explore why Cuba has remained almost unchanged for decades, how its people live under continuing sanctions, what makes it so captivating, and how much it costs to visit from Pakistan or anywhere else. So, let's begin our fascinating journey to the Republic of Cuba, the largest island in the Caribbean, home to over 11 million people. By population, it ranks 87th in the world, and geographically, it consists of more than 4,000 islands and cays with a total area of 109,884 square kilometers, making it one of the biggest island nations on Earth. Cuba's official language is Spanish, and that's because it was under Spanish rule from the 16th to the 19th century. The Spanish influence still lingers in every corner, in architecture, culture, religion, and daily life. Walking through the streets of Havana or Santiago de Cuba, you'll find beautiful colonial buildings that reflect Spain's 400-year rule. Cuban people are proud, confident, and cultured. When you talk to them, you'll feel like you're speaking with highly educated and sophisticated individuals, a reflection of Cuba's deep investment in education and health over the years. The capital city Havana is Cuba's largest and most vibrant urban area, home to about 2.1 million people. It's filled with old, colorful buildings, lively streets, and timeless charm. But what truly makes Havana world famous are its classic cars, those beautifully restored vintage vehicles from the 1950s and 60s. Because of trade restrictions and sanctions, Cubans were unable to import new cars for decades, so they maintained and rebuilt their old American models, turning them into national treasures. You can even book a city tour in one of these vintage cars for around $20 and feel like you've traveled back in time. Havana is also famous for producing the world's finest cigars. Many say the tradition of cigar making began here centuries ago. Walking through the streets, you'll often see locals rolling cigars by hand, a craft passed down through generations. The local currency is the Cuban peso, and its value is almost similar to the Pakistani rupee. Interestingly, Havana is considered one of the safest cities in the world, even safer than New York City. Despite its economic challenges, crime here is remarkably low, and tourists often describe Havana as both peaceful and welcoming. Cuba's charm lies not only in its beauty but in its defiance. For decades, it has been on the list of countries considered enemies by the United States, alongside nations like Libya, Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. The U.S. imposed strict economic sanctions on Cuba in the early 1960s, cutting off trade and isolating the island from much of the world. But to understand why America and Cuba became enemies, we have to go back in history. In 1492, the famous explorer Christopher Columbus arrived in the Caribbean under orders from Spain's Queen Isabella. Officially, he is credited with discovering the Americas. But according to some historical accounts, including claims made by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in 2014, Muslim travelers had reached the Americas long before Columbus. Evidence suggests that when Columbus landed in Cuba, he saw a structure resembling a mosque on a coastal mountain, possibly built in the 12th century. This indicates that Muslim explorers may have visited or even settled in the region centuries earlier. After Columbus' arrival, Spain claimed Cuba as its colony and began exploiting it for sugar production, bringing enslaved Africans to work on plantations. For nearly 400 years, Cuba remained under Spanish control. Cuba finally gained independence from Spain in 1898, but soon after, the United States occupied the island, turning it into a protectorate. Everything changed in 1959, when Fidel Castro, alongside Che Guevara, led a successful revolution against the US-backed dictator Fulgencio Batista. The revolution transformed Cuba into a socialist state, aligning it with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. In 1962, the world came dangerously close to nuclear war when the Soviet Union placed missiles in Cuba, just 150 kilometers from Florida. This incident, known as the Cuban Missile Crisis, marked one of the tensest moments in world history. In response, the US imposed a trade embargo that continues to this day. But despite these sanctions, Cuba built one of the best education and healthcare systems in the developing world. Its literacy rate today stands at an astonishing 99.8%, higher than many European nations. That's why, even though Cuba's economy is modest, its people are highly educated, dignified, and proud of their independence. Cuba remains one of the few countries where communism is still practiced. The government controls nearly all major industries, from transportation to telecommunications. Even the taxis belong to the state. Because of economic sanctions, everyday items are often scarce. Locals sometimes wait in long lines to buy basic goods. The internet and technology are limited, and foreign brands like Coca-Cola are banned. Yet, despite all these challenges, Cubans are warm, lively, and optimistic. Most people don't speak fluent English, but they go out of their way to help tourists. There's also a black market for currency exchange, where you can get a better rate than at official exchange offices. Cuba's population is 78% urban and 22% rural, and it shares maritime borders with the Bahamas, United States, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and the Cayman Islands. Cuba's healthcare system is considered among the best in Latin America. With around 70,000 doctors, the country has one of the highest doctor-to-patient ratios in the world. Education and medical care are completely free, even for foreign students. Cuba's universities, such as the University of Havana, the University of Santiago de Cuba, and the Institute of Science and Technology, are internationally recognized. Studying medicine in Cuba costs around $5,000 to $8,000 per year, while other programs range from $3,000 to $5,500 annually, relatively affordable compared to Western countries. Cuba also has some unique and surprising cultural festivals. One of them is called Burial of Pac-Hen, celebrated since 1984. During this festival, a living person is placed inside a coffin, symbolically buried, and then paraded around the town as people celebrate, dance, and drink. It's believed to represent the cycle of life and death, a reminder to celebrate life before it ends. Cuba's religious demographics are diverse, around 58% Christians, 17% non-religious, and small minorities of Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, and Hindus. Cuba's GDP is around $107 billion, with an average income of about $500 per month. Despite this, the crime rate is remarkably low. Tourism is a major pillar of the economy, with over 1.7 million visitors recorded in recent years. In fact, Cuba's government promotes tourism as a way to connect with the world while preserving its socialist values. The people are extremely friendly toward visitors because they understand how vital tourism is to their livelihood. Traveling to Cuba from Pakistan or South Asia isn't cheap, but it's worth it. The tourist visa fee is around $30, but including document translations and invitation letters, the total cost can reach $200. Flights from Pakistan to Cuba cost approximately 400,000 Pakistani rupees, depending on the season. Cuba also maintains strong diplomatic relations with Pakistan. In fact, Cuba sent hundreds of doctors and medical teams to assist Pakistan after the 2005 earthquake, a gesture Pakistanis still remember with gratitude. Most tourists start their journey in Havana, exploring the cobblestone streets and colorful colonial buildings of Old Havana, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Here, you'll find 18th-century architecture, vibrant markets, and charming cafes. Don't miss El Capitolio, a grand government building modeled after the U.S. Capitol but topped with gold imported from Russia. Take a one-hour city tour in a classic convertible car for just $20 and soak in the retro atmosphere. At night, Havana transforms into a city of music and rhythm. Salsa, rumba, and jazz spill from every bar and restaurant. Locals dance with infectious joy, reminding visitors that even hardship cannot steal their happiness. Next, visit the Revolution Square, the very place where Fidel Castro addressed millions during historic speeches. Ask any Cuban when the revolution started, and they'll proudly say, 1959. Ask when it ended, and they'll smile, it's still going on. After Havana, travelers often head to Santiago de Cuba, the country's second-largest city and the cradle of the revolution. Here, you can visit old Spanish fortresses from the 17th century and learn about the revolutionary movements that shaped modern Cuba. Another fascinating destination is Trinidad, a beautifully preserved colonial town famous for its cobbled streets and sugar plantations. The town looks exactly like it did 200 years ago, offering a glimpse into Cuba's past glory. Cuba's coastal towns, like Varadero and Cienfuegos, offer some of the most beautiful beaches in the Caribbean, turquoise waters, white sands, and a serene tropical vibe. Music is the heartbeat of Cuban life. Every street, cafe, and corner resonates with live performances, from Afro-Cuban beats to smooth jazz. Dancing is not just entertainment here, it's a way of expressing freedom and unity. Cuban hospitality is exceptional. Even though most locals live modestly, they'll invite you into their homes, share stories, and treat you like family. Interestingly, Indian movies and songs are quite popular in Cuba. Many locals recognize Bollywood stars and often play Hindi songs in cafes and homes, a reflection of cultural friendship between the two nations. Finding halal food in Cuba can be a bit difficult, but vegetarian and seafood options are easily available. Cuban cuisine is simple yet flavorful, with staples like rice, beans, chicken, and tropical fruits. Due to the centralized economy, prices for food and goods are controlled by the government. Even mobile networks are state-owned, and there's only one telecom company operating across the island. Despite limited material wealth, Cubans live vibrant, social lives. They value community, culture, and connection more than possessions. Cuba may not be a rich country, but it offers something priceless, a glimpse into a world untouched by modern capitalism. It's like walking through history, where every street tells a story of resilience, revolution, and hope. Here, life moves slower. People greet you with genuine smiles, music fills the air, and vintage cars roll past colorful houses, all reminders of a nation that chose pride over submission. So, if you ever dream of experiencing life as it was decades ago, in a place where culture, courage, and beauty coexist, Cuba is the destination for you. Friends, this was our journey through the heart of Cuba, its history, its struggles, and its soul. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in our next travel story.